Hey, what's up, Shelly Rob fam? Whether you are watching us from YouTube and seeing this for the first time, have seen us on Instagram, or seen us on TikTok, I did tell you guys I would make a Rhabdo video explaining about what really happened and what I'm dealing with now. I'm gonna try to stay away from using the words like, the D word, or like the K word when you know, unalive somebody, because I don't want to be demonetized here on this channel. There's a lot more rules here on YouTube than there is on other platforms. But if you're new here, long story short is I was in training to be a firefighter. I was only a couple weeks away from graduating. And so there's 3 steps. You go through EMT school, fire school, where you do a whole bunch of firefighter training stuff, water and tactics and things like that. And then lastly, you go through intense physical training for the department you want to work for. And then they're like, all right, we want you. Like an army, boot camp. I made it all the way through all the steps, no issues, up until a couple weeks where I'm supposed to graduate. The issue is that we had a training one day, and it was in a field where there wasn't much covering. It was 110 degree heat index. I had the full fire gear, the life pack, and we had to do trainings. So we had done one training where I'm trying to do what we're supposed to do, and halfway through it, I just felt like everything was just squeezing me. My heart started racing. Like, I've never felt my heart like basically pumping through my chest. And everything just felt like an octopus was squeezing me, where I just threw the hose on the floor, went to rehab, which is it's a tent where you sit down and rest, drink some water, whatever, take everything off. And I'm like, what the heck was that? So when I do that, the lieutenants come to me, and obviously they dislike this because they do not want to see me or any firefighter quit. They'd rather see you get through the task pushing as much as you can than to quit. And at this moment I was like, dang, I'm gonna get my butt handed to myself. And they're like, why did you quit? So I explained it to them, and I was feeling like everything was tight and my heart was beating. They're like, you have a history of anything? And I was like, I don't know, maybe it's my asthma, because I used to be a chronic asthmatic. And usually I'm no health issues, like everything's fine. I usually do a lot of physical things. I was a college athlete. I played ball professionally. Like, there's many things that I've done where this shouldn't have been an issue. For 20 years I've been an athlete, and I was like, I don't know, I've never felt something like this. And they're like, well, you need to pass this in order to move on. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, dang, I don't know what's going on. So my classmates come over, they try to cheer me on. I was like, bro, I don't know what that was. They're like, yo, just push it out. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna push it out. So I go again to try it again. Same thing happens, and I pull everything off, head back to rehab, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And then that's when one of my main lieutenants comes, and he's like, I'd rather see you pass out than to quit. We don't want quitters, which I understand. You're a firefighter, you don't want anybody to quit. And then he's like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't able to breathe. Things were going crazy. I don't know what's going on. He's like, you think I don't know what an asthma attack is? You're not having an asthma attack. And I was like, oh man. He's like, you do have a heart problem. And I was like, what is it? He's like, you're a coward. You don't have determination. It's not medical heart problem. And then he's like, during lunch, because it was a break in between, he's like, during lunch, you better call your wife, your kids, and you better find Jesus, because you need to pass this stuff. He's like, if not, you out, right? Basically saying that my job was on the line. I call Shelly, I tell her, she's like, yo, you got this. You know what? You always pull it through. Like, you always get through it. You always say like you're not, and then you do. Like, I believe in you. I ended up feeling terrible during lunch. And I just knew something was wrong, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna just try. I'm gonna try. I was like, yeah, you're right, babe. So I ended up going back out. I ended up doing it about 5 or 6 times. And the sixth time is when I collapsed and I fell. And I'm in the field. It's 110 heat index. I'm on all fours with my fire gear on, the back life pack, the air pack on there, and everything is just cramping. So I try to push off one leg to stand up, and it cramps to where I fall again. So I fall like right on my chest onto a floor, and all I hear is like, "Get up, get up, get up, get up." And then they're like, "Yo, Perez, you're out. Get out." So they told me to go back to rehab, and I just keep stumbling and crawling all the way down to rehab. And that's when I just take everything off. I try to drink water. I end up going to the side, throwing it up like almost immediately, and no one helped me. Like, no one was helping me until the point where I sat down on the floor, or I laid down or sat on the floor because sitting on a chair was hurting me. So every time I sat, it was like I was cramping up, and all I kept hearing from the lieutenant is like, "Shut up! We don't want to hear you. You're depressing the whole class. Nobody wants to hear that." And then, like, I'm sitting there, and then he tells me to get up because I was on the floor, and I'm cramping bad. And he pulls me to the side with another lieutenant. He's like, "You know, when your mother and father, when you were growing up, they told you could be anything you want to be?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "They lied to you. Maybe this ain't cut out for you. There's desk jobs available for you." And then he kept on belittling me and commenting things, and he's saying things like, "You're lucky your wife and kids weren't here to see you, how much of a failure you are." And I'm here cramping, like the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, and I couldn't even say ow because I was already threatened to be written up for cursing because I said F word, you know. And I just was, I was in the point where I was like, I don't know what's going on with me. And all my classmates are like, "Yo, just come on, push it out, push it out." And I'm like, "Yo, I don't know what's going on." Long story short, the day ends, I go home, and I'm just out of it. So Shelly's like, I already told on the phone I wasn't feeling good. She set up being an amazing partner that she is, she set up the hot tub for me with some Epsom salt. She's like, "Just sit there." So I just sat there for 2 hours, just like in my own head, thinking like, what the heck's going on? And I was like, "Babe, can you just like rub my back when I get out?" She's like, "Yeah." So she went to the store, got me some stuff. I thought maybe I just need to sleep and was dehydrated or something. And she's like, "Yo," every time she went to rub my back, it just felt like I was as stiff as a board or like a corpse. It was, everything hurt, like everything was tight. And she's like, "You should go to the hospital." And I was like, "No, I gotta go to work. I can't miss out. I'm trying to save my career." So the next day, before the next day, all night I tried to drink water so I wouldn't go to work dehydrated, and I kept throwing it up nonstop. I decided to go to work the next morning, where the training we had to do that day was a simulated house fire. So it was a house that was basically with smoke. You had to put your fire gear on. You had to go in there, rescue dummies, carry them out, do the usual. And I told my squad leader, "I can't do it. I haven't held down water. I know I'm dehydrated because I haven't held down water. I just want it to come so I'm not missing a day." Because we were told missing days are not good. My squad leader was like, "Yo, I got to tell the lieutenant." I'm like, "Yo, do what you got to do." He tells the lieutenant, and that lieutenant was just like, "I want nothing to do with that. The coward's cowering again. This is a whole new day." And I was like, I don't feel good. Every time I drink water, I throw it back up. Like, I don't know. I haven't stopped since yesterday. And all I got was, "Go to headquarters. I don't want to deal with you." Basically saying that I was lying about it. Mind you, I don't feel well. My body's cramping. I'm hurting. I had to take all my fire gear, carry it to my car, which was like a 10-minute walk, drive 30 minutes to headquarters, where I was asked by a captain, like, "You really want to go to the doctor? You're just dehydrated. Like, did you drink alcohol the night before?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Are you drinking enough water?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to drink a gallon before I go to sleep. I'm trying to drink 2 gallons before I go to sleep. I'm trying to drink a gallon before I head out to work." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they looked annoyed that they had to do paperwork. But I ended up going, where I ended up in a clinic, and in the clinic they're like, "Oh, we need a urine test. They want to see if there's alcohol in your system." And I was like, "All right, that's fine." So they do their work. They're like, "Here's a bottle of water." They give me 2 bottles of water. I drink it. 10 minutes later, nothing. I was like, "Listen, I don't have to use the restroom. Can I get more water?" Nothing. "Can I get another bottle?" Nothing. I felt bad for the nurses because they kept giving me water. And I just like, I'm sorry, nothing. I ended up getting like 10 bottles of water, to the point where I was like, I can't hold it no more. They're like, what? I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And they're like, you gotta pee? I was like, no. I projectile vomited everything out. And that's when I came back out, and the nurses were like, you gotta go. And they were like, what? We were just waiting for a urine test, but your eyes are jaundiced, so it means I was having yellow eyes under here. They're like, you do not look good, head to ER. We're gonna refer you. So I didn't have to wait. So I drove myself to the emergency room, and it was a 5-minute drive. I drove myself to the emergency room, where they ended up taking me in, like doing my vitals originally, asking me where it was, what was happening, put me into a room. And this is where I'm like laying on a bed, and nobody's with me. I was by myself. No one helped me from the fire department at this moment. The lieutenants never called to see what was happening. Nobody from that called. So I ended up calling Shelly and like, listen, I'm by myself. Don't freak out. I'm in the emergency room. It told me to come here. I'll let you know what's happening. Don't worry. I'll go home. I'll let you know what happened. The nurse comes in and she's like, hey, you have rhabdomyolysis. And I'm like, what's that? So she kind of explains it, that basically when you work out, you break your muscles. It creates protein so that it becomes stronger. But I was pushed to the limit where my body could not handle it anymore. So it created too much protein to rebuild itself, that it went into my bloodstream, and it was affecting my heart and my kidney. And that's why my heart was going uncontrollably, and that's why I wasn't able to drink water. And she told me that, it's kind of serious. You came at a good time. Is there, like, are you feeling anything else? And I told her everything I was feeling. But she's like, all right, I'm going to come back with the doctor. So I told Shelly, like, hey, I was just told to have rhabdomyolysis. So Shelly is like, what? And I'm like, yeah. So she's like, I'm going to go there now. And Shelly grabbed my things, came in. At this point, a chief walks in as well from my department. And that's when I kind of knew something was serious. Because I was like, what is the chief coming in here after I told my lieutenants, like, whatever I had. And he's like, oh, nobody drove you? And I was like, no. They're like, they didn't help you? I was like, no. They're like, you drove yourself from where you were to headquarters? And I was like, yeah. And then you drove yourself from there to the clinic? And I was like, yeah. And then you drove yourself from the clinic to ER? He's like, yeah. He's like, yo, I'm pissed. So he was pissed. He was upset. Then that's when Shelly walks in. That chief is amazing though. He's a sweetheart. I love the guy. But that's when Shelly comes in. She meets him. She's upset. She tells him, I'm upset. Your department let my husband down. Things like that. Like she was upset. And so was like my sister there. 2 minutes later, the doctor comes in and she's like, I need to ask you personal questions. Can we clear the room? So I was like, can my wife stay? And she's like, yeah. Once she clears the room, it's just me and Shelly. And the doctor's like, I just needed to clear the room because I don't want no firefighters or anybody here. She's like, if you would have went to work, did that training, or did another day of training or two, that would have been the end. And this is where I feel bad for Shelly, because I told her I'll be okay. I told her no, I didn't want to go to the hospital the night before. I told her all this. Like, I just kept thinking of her hearing me being on the floor crawling, like asking for help, and nobody did anything. Like, nobody did anything. And I was basically slowly, and I felt bad for her. And she's like, I felt bad because the next day was our son's birthday. Could you imagine if I wouldn't have made it? I ended up spending that night 7 bags of IV. There's a CK level of things that are in your bloodstreams that is not supposed to be there. The level should be from 20 to 200. I was at 1,352, which is like 6 times more than the limit it should be at max. I missed my son's birthday, but the birthday party I made, to the point where I was never cleared to go back to work. I was 2 weeks away from graduating. I wasn't cleared, so I missed out on graduating as a firefighter with the class I just spent the whole year building connections with. Workers' comp, sorry, workers' comp did not clear me. It was up until the last week where the workers' comp doctor's like, you're still not ready to do physical training. Any training with fire gear on, be in this heat. It's like, we still don't want to clear you. And that's where I was fed up. I was like, just clear me on the light duty. I just want to see what's happening. I'm already getting delayed a class. I want to see how I feel. And they're like, all right, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. I was like, just put me on the light duty or something. And they're like, all right. When I got back to the fire department, all they could offer me was that I would have to do the 10 weeks over with the same lieutenants that I just spent the night in the hospital from almost passing away. And since I'm not ready, if I have to not wait the 10-week class, if I can't make it for that, I'll do the class after that. So if you do the math, if I can't make it in time to do one class, I would go to the second one. And if each class is 10 weeks, that's 20 weeks of being next to or with the people to oversee me. That one, almost, they hurt me. And 2 months later, they have not called to say sorry. They have not called to check up on me. They didn't check up on my family. They didn't check up on anything. So why do I want to go back to that? So I ended up working. Then the hurricane hit. And I was cleared. So the hurricane hit. I decided to work it. I worked it 80 hours nonstop. I wasn't with Shelly or my home for those days. I was working it. And then I decided I didn't want to go back. I didn't feel comfortable being around those people. The only reason I did enjoy working the hurricane was because I was with my class. They were still there. They were a week away from graduating. And I was with my class. And that was the last I got to see or spend time with them. But I was there. Long story short, I ended up resigning for medical issues. Now I'm 2 months since I knew I had Rhabdo, or when I went to the hospital. I can't jog half a mile without feeling nauseous or headaches. I play basketball, which is the thing that I love the most, the thing that keeps me sane, the thing that I can do where I don't think about anything else but that. And I did it for 20 years, where I did 3 times a week or whatever. If I play one, it's taking me a whole week to recover. The thing I love most is the thing that's hurting me the most right now. So if I can't get through something I love doing, imagine going into a physical training that's going to be torturous. And I don't feel comfortable with the people that couldn't even have the decency to say sorry or check up on me. Long story short, I resigned. Workers' comp does not want to pay some of the procedures like the CAT scan and all that on the kidneys, because they said, you had an incidental finding, we're not going to pay for it. But if Rhabdo can give you kidney failure and a heart failure, shouldn't that come with pay for? They refused. I did not get paid for working the hurricane. I emailed them, no one responds. And I'm 2 months out, unemployed, and not my usual self. Physically, I'm not nowhere what I used to be just 2.5 months ago, and it bothers me. I was jogging 3 to 4 miles. I was playing ball 2 times a week. I was working out, and now I could barely go up the hill without feeling nauseous or hurt, and that sucks. And the thing that sucks the most is that I feel like a failure. I feel like a failure as a dad and as a husband, because I should have been with a career. I should have been able to take them places and pay for things, and right now I'm hoping I have a chance to be a firefighter. And that's where I stand now. A lot of you guys were asking hey, have you spoke to a lawyer as well? And I'm gonna just be honest and tell you, yeah. I wanted to see if maybe there was a case there that saved me some time. And I ended up being referred to about 6 people, and they all said no. Reason being, they offered me workers' comp, and they offered me 2 classes to redo it. So screw that. I did not feel safe. Screw that my body's hurting me too much later. And screw that my career as a firefighter could have been messed up by their negligence. No firefighter, no lawyer wants to take the case. Maybe they don't just want to. Maybe it's because they don't want to sue the department. I don't know, but I was told no a few times. But that's where I stand. Yeah, so I just thank you guys for always supporting us. This is why I'm streaming a lot, and that's why I'm with Isaiah a lot. I did not want to talk a lot about it until like I felt a little ready. But hopefully this explains what we're going through and why I'm not a firefighter as of now. But yeah, appreciate you guys. I'll see you on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Peace out, everybody.